Hey everybody, it's Morgan J. Ingram here with another SDR Chronicle. And instead of one guest, I have two, Carolyn and Jack from EverString. We're going to talk about, hey, how does an account-based strategy work with SDRs and how do you implement that playbook? So they both have been SDRs, so they're going to tell us how they've done that at EverString and how they've seen success. So without any further ado, I'm going to let Carolyn and Jack dive into the introduction and we're going to go to the topic of the day.
Go ahead, Fred.
Yeah. Hi, I'm Carolyn. I'm a solutions consultant at EverString. Previously, I was the SDR team lead for the mid-market team and helped build out our onboarding process and ramping for our team of about 16 people.
My name's Jack Veronin. I am the SDR manager here at EverString, formerly the enterprise SDR team lead. And I manage about 10 young people today that are taking an account-based approach to everything.
Awesome. Well, we're super excited to have you today on the SDR Chronicles. So let's go into the first question. How does one get prepared for an account-based strategy from an SDR viewpoint?
I'll go ahead. So the first thing that I think you need to do is not forget the word lead, but stop being so lead focused. You're not selling to a person, you're selling to an account as an SDR, as a salesperson. So when you're looking to do outbound, you need to look at the account first and figure out if that account is a fit for what you are selling today before you do any more prospecting into the account at the contact level. Do you want to add anything to that?
Yeah, I think Jack's totally right. Just expanding on that, there's never just one decision maker. There's a ton of research out there that even more people are invested in every decision. So you really need to know, like, top to bottom, who's going to be involved in your decision, who's going to be the ultimate signer, who would be the practitioner, and making sure that all of those people are on the same page so that you can be account focused.
Awesome. And what if you are the SDR and you're actually taking an account-based strategy, but maybe the executive team or the management team hasn't really bought into that? How can you kind of pledge and kind of fight for that account-based strategy outlook?
That's a good question. It's something that when we started here early, I think there was a lot of topic. Carolyn and I have been here for almost 2 years now. And, you know, when we started at EverString, the account-based movement was just getting going. And, you know, as an SDR, a fresh SDR, my first job out of college, I was really trying to think critically about how I'm going to, you know, meet my quota every month. I got assigned to the enterprise team, which honestly I think helped me think about an account more than a lead, because if you're going after a company like ADP, they have 10,000 employees in 13 countries or whatever, right? So you really need to think about, okay, there's probably anywhere from 10 to 15 people that could possibly make a decision to buy, in our case, EverString, but for any SDR, your product. So you really need to take a multi-threaded approach to an account, because you could run into a blockade with one prospect, but then you can go into a different division of an organization like that and get a deal done. So I think the multi-prospect, multi-threaded approach, we're attacking multiple people and we're also attacking them on multiple channels: LinkedIn, Twitter, you know, traditional email and phone.
Yeah, I totally agree.
Awesome.
Anything.
So I kind of want to actually shift it back to you, Jack, because you kind of brought up a great point on, hey, you know, ADP has thousands and thousands and thousands of employees. What were different plays that you did on an account-based level that you saw work to penetrate into those accounts and actually schedule that meeting?
Yeah, that's a good question. Thanks. So one thing that I think we've done well over here and that I preach every day to the SDRs is, you, at least at the enterprise level, if we're still on the ADP track here, you just want to get in. You want to get in, and you want to get in around the level of power that you're looking for. So if you're looking, in our case, for a director of demand gen, what I do is I not only, you know, go after that individual, but I go out after everybody that I think is connected to them in some way. Like, hey, I may not be able to get to the director level, but maybe I can get through to the manager that directly works for that person I want to talk to, or to that person's sales counterpart. We sell into both sales and marketing here at EverString. So what I kind of picture it like a spoke. If you can picture a spoke on a wheel, the person that you want to get in touch with is in the middle, but they're connected to about 4 or 5 or 6 people that could potentially answer the question that you're looking to get answered. Do you have these pain points? And, would you be interested in, taking a meeting to take a look at our product that aligns with those pain points I've identified?
Yeah. And I think on top of that, the fact that we're using not only email, phone, and LinkedIn, we're using Twitter as well. I think being present on social, obviously you're super present on social, is really important. You can get kind of glimpses into who these people are that you wouldn't be able to just get from seeing their name and their title, that can help you be really relevant. I think that's something that we focused on a lot, and is something that's appreciated a lot on the enterprise scale, is you're not just sending them a generic message of like, hey, like, we work with other enterprise companies. Like, you're reaching out to them as a person, and making the message relevant to them on a company as well as a personal level.
Awesome. Yeah, I love that breakdown, and kind of want to dive down deeper into that. So you talked about, hey, let's talk to the manager, take it to the director, and the different facets. What's been, I guess, how do you keep people consistent in that, right? Because there could be a point where it's like, all my personalized messages are, I think they're going really well, and I think they can be well received, but I'm actually not getting responses from them. So I guess as a team lead that you were, Carolyn, and as I guess the current SDR manager, Jack, how do you keeping people on that mindset that, hey, we're trying to play on an account-based level and not a lead-focused level?
That's a good question. One example comes to mind recently. Actually, a company that sits in Georgia. It's going after Equifax.
Good old Equifax.
They are a large enterprise company, one of the 3 major creditors, right? Or they do the credit checks. Yeah.
Huge.
So what I did there is I was going after, a director level person. I simply could not get through. So I called all around that individual. I emailed all around that individual. And then once I had talked to about 4 different people within Equifax, within the marketing department, I went ahead and sent that email to the person and said, hey, I've talked to Joe, I've talked to Whitney, I've talked to Christian, and I've talked to TC. They all pointed me in your direction. Can you help me? Is this something that you're struggling with today? And if so, can we have a meeting? The prospect wrote back, and she said, your back must be hurting, Jack, from dropping all those names and picking them up off the floor. So I think a referral is the SDR's new best friend in an account-based world, because if it just makes you credible. Like I've talked to everybody on your team except you, Mr. or Mrs. Decision Maker. I think it's time for us to have a chat.
I love it. And let's you guys talked about social. How can you use social to integrate that? Is it, hey, do I need to post something every single week, every single day? Or is it just really following my key stakeholders and really seeing what they're saying, listening, and then applying that in your outreach?
So I can talk Twitter, and you're way better at LinkedIn than I am. So he is definitely the LinkedIn master, and I feel like I have pretty good Twitter following and stuff like that. So I think getting in front of people, learning about them. I don't think you need to be bombarding them with retweets and comments and stuff like that, but getting in front of them and just kind of warming them up so that there's some name recognition, so that when they get your email or when they get your phone call, they're like, oh, I see that you've been following my thought leadership, or you've been replying with an insightful comment to something that I've written on LinkedIn or on Twitter or something like that, so that there's a personal connection and you're clearly invested in what they have to say, rather than just I need you to take a meeting. Yeah.
And, Carolyn has done a great job at building a brand, especially on Twitter and especially in, her old territory. So I'll speak a little bit to LinkedIn. It honestly shocks me that I don't see more SDRs commenting on prospects' feeds. I'm always so surprised that I don't see anybody but myself or one of the SDRs making a comment on a share on LinkedIn. That's a great way to just ask a quick question. Here at EverString, we never pitch EverString on a comment, but we'll go ahead and ask them a question that's related to, a problem that we solve. And it just shows curiosity. It shows tenacity. It shows that you're paying attention and you're up to date with, you know, things that are on top of mind for that specific prospect. I can think of another story where I did a multi-prospect approach to getting a meeting with an account. The decision maker was very active on social media, specifically LinkedIn. He was always sharing like your 2017 marketing predictions and stuff like that. So I commented 5 days in a row on 5 of his shares.
Yeah.
Commented 5 days in a row on one of his counterpart shares. And then I sent him an email and I said, hey, it looks like you, and her name was Jill, it looks like you and Jill are talking a lot about this account-based thing. You know, have you ever considered, you know, predictive as a part of that stack? And, you know, he wrote back and said, you're relentless. You know, I appreciate your persistence. Let's have a meeting, you know, in a couple weeks.
Awesome. Yeah, I think persistence overall is the biggest thing that a lot of people don't have, and also the resourcefulness of just, you know, commenting on LinkedIn statuses and really getting out there and being present. So my question is, do you think that because there's been a different type of methodology before where it's just like calls, emails, and that's it, and I'm trying to go through the numbers, that people don't think outside of the box to actually ask those questions and actually build Twitter accounts for that account-based strategy?
I think our now VP, Matt Amundsen, said it best. The worst thing that can happen in account-based marketing and account-based everything is scorched earth. And a lot of the traditional ways of like spray and pray, like reaching out to people that like followed the marketing automation approach caused a lot of scorchers. So like if you mess up one token in Marketo or in SalesLoft or something like that, and you send out 500 emails and it doesn't really resonate with anyone, they're going to have a sour taste in your mouth when it comes back to you. And so you need to be focusing on being hyper personalized and then using all of those tools in order to like get into those accounts.
Yeah, and piggybacking on that, another thing that Matt had said recently that really stood out to me is, you know, the SDR is an extended arm of marketing, and the SDR is supposed to go places that marketing can't. So where can marketing go? Email, direct mail, right? They can't get on the phone. They can't get on LinkedIn. They can't get on Twitter. That's where the SDR comes in. And the reason why I enjoyed the SDR role so much is, at least at Everstring, we were allowed to get creative, you know? You know, I didn't know that social selling was a thing when I started this job. I just started doing it because it made sense to me. Like, hey, everybody looks at their phone all the time. What comes on your phone when someone says something on LinkedIn? You get a notification right to your hand.
Right.
As opposed to an email, which might necessarily not be there. And there's way more emails coming to your phone than there is LinkedIn messages. So, you know, whatever gets their attention is where we go. You know, find out where the prospect talks and go there. If they talk on Twitter, go there. If they talk on LinkedIn, go there. If they're an email person, go there. And if they pick up the phone, go there.
Awesome. Awesome. Yeah, I think that's really big, is that, you know, you have to go where your audience is. Whether it's, hey, it's LinkedIn, it's Instagram, Pinterest, Twitter, it doesn't really matter. As long as your audience is there and provide them relevant content, I think that's the biggest key. So with LinkedIn and Twitter, do you guys also direct message these people with relevant context? Like, I feel like a lot of people are like, oh yeah, when they think of social selling, they think of, let me just blow up people's inboxes on Twitter and LinkedIn. Like, kind of talk about the strategies behind that.
I can talk about my Twitter strategy.
Yeah.
So I use Twitter for events pretty aggressively. So obviously like Marketo Summit and Dreamforce and Rainmaker and Flip My Funnel in particular are very Twitter heavy events. And so if you're following people, you can see that they're tweeting about them and you can interact with them and be like, hey, are you guys going? Like, if you're going to be in town, I would love to get coffee. And then just searching the hashtag that's associated with the event to see new people who are going to the event and then reaching out to them. As Jack said, we literally do zero pitching across social media. It's to establish a professional connection. And then pitching happens like via phone or email, not on social, because as we've started to see all these like memes on LinkedIn of like, gets LinkedIn request, like 30 seconds later, gets pitched directly into inbox. We've done from that. It's banned. And so I would recommend on Twitter just interacting with people in a really casual way. No one's going to say no to like wanting to get coffee with you when they're traveling across the country to an event that you're both going to be at.
Yeah, that's a great point. And then I guess to the LinkedIn side, since we both got good at certain things, you know, I do not like the InMail that much. I think LinkedIn is to share thoughts and business thoughts in particular. So what I have the SDRs do here is, you know, we're going to send you our first touch is a LinkedIn touch, but it is a connection request saying, hey, Morgan, you know, it looks like you care a lot about sales development and marketing. You know, you work at Terminus. It's a really cool company. I'd love to follow your thoughts on these topics and be professionally connected. Again, in that there is no pitch about EverString. It's that, hey, I want to connect with you on a human level. I'm not an automated robot that just presses go on the other side, you know, and sends you a sales email. I want to follow what you're sharing. So then when you do share that thing that's relative to my business, I'm going to pounce on it.
I love it. Yeah, I love it. You're sharing context and able to provide value at the right time. And I kind of want to talk about, we talked about social, but let's talk about like emails and the phone, right? Like the main kind of weapons that SDRs use. Are you using relevant context within Twitter and LinkedIn to have these introductory conversations on an account-based strategy level? Or do you have just personas that you use certain talk tracks with?
I think we're taking it more as an account-based approach. So obviously your first step is to like pick the account that you want to go after, then identify the titles of people that you like to go after, and then use whatever relevant content you can get from social to then build that into an email cadence. We use SalesLoft, we love it.
Right.
And then you can either have an account-oriented cadence or like a buyer persona-oriented cadence is the way that I personally set it up. And then we follow the 10-80-10 rule of like 10% personalized, 80% like kind of a generic message about what we're doing and who we've helped that's similar to them, and then close with another 10% of personalized. And so grabbing all those little bits and pieces from either information about their company or information about them from social to go in those 20% is the way that we've been pretty strategic about it.
Yeah, that's a good point. And if they do have something on social, we're going to absolutely drag it into an email. But we're going to go comment on that article it just shows all the articles you've published on LinkedIn right there at the top. If there's something relevant to our business, we're going to go ahead and say, great read, Mr. Buyer at Company X. You know, I really liked your point about, you know, doing this, this, and this. How are you, you know, addressing those pain points today? And just ask a simple question, you know, compliment them, ask a simple question about their strategy. You know, a lot of people are really open to sharing ideas and sharing strategies if you approach it in the right way. And then after that, we're going to go ahead and say, I read your blog, and that's going to be our title. I read your blog, whatever it's titled, and that's going to be the headline. And that's a major key, no pun intended.
Major key.
Khaled's been all over the place lately.
Yeah.
Anyway, it's going to be a major key to getting that email opened. You know, if someone sends me an email saying they just read my blog post, I'm for sure going to read the whole email and see what they came up with, and then how they tie it back to my personal needs or my personal business needs. So we're absolutely we're talking to prospects about their tweets, about their publications on LinkedIn through email. And then we always set up a phone call with an email like that. So then when you call them and I get you live on the phone somehow, Morgan. Hey, Morgan, watched episode 3 of SDR Chronicles and noticed you said this. Did you get my email about that? You're most likely going to say, yeah, I did get your email about that. Let me pull it up real quick. And if you can get a prospect to pull up a highly personalized, relevant email while you're on the phone with them, it's done. It's usually 100% a meeting.
Yeah, no, I mean, it has to be at that point unless the person is just having a really bad day.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, yeah, I really love the context and content you guys have given thus far on really social, phone, and email and the strategies. I kind of want to talk about you guys yourselves. Have you guys had your own type of plays that you run yourselves? Or does every single play that you have as or where you were an SDR, was that from management or for the executive team?
Yeah, I'll go ahead and start here. So the very first meeting I ever booked here at EverString, I was having a little bit of trouble. You know, I was fresh out of college. I was getting a little frustrated with just traditional plays that were set up for me. I saw my counterparts like Carolyn booking 4 meetings or 5 meetings before I booked one. So I played sports in college. I'm competitive.
Yeah, it's like, what's going on?
Right.
I did not play sports.
I need to do something different.
It's the same way.
Meet Carolyn in a nice way, but like, so what I did is I read a prospect's blog. She gave me an objection through email saying, hey, we're not looking into this. And her blog was about how she evaluates technology. So I just wrote her an email in the format of her blog. It was a bullet point blog. And then I said, hey, you say this about evaluating technologies, value prop. You said this about evaluating technologies, value prop. And then I really never looked back after that. I never sent a canned email again. I don't think. Everything I send is personalized, and the team has jumped on board there. One thing that I started doing on my own with the help of my AE, Greg George, love you, Greg, is you know, if you have the opportunity to go after public companies, read their 10K reports if you have time, because that's what the C-level executives are worried about. And you can often find great nuggets in a 10K. Like for us, we help you find your ICP and your total addressable market. If there's anything about a new logo initiative in the 10K, hey, got a chance to read your 10K, Mr. C-level executive. I noticed you have an initiative this year for new logos. How are you identifying which companies to go after? 10K reports, I don't know how many SDRs have the willpower to kind of dig through those. I know they're hefty.
Those are long.
I was going to say, I was mid-market and I maybe only had 1 or 2 companies that were public companies, but I did that and I got into all of them.
Yeah.
You can just, I think I didn't sit and read like the entire 10K. I kind of looked for like our buzzword phrases.
Yeah.
Like, so Jack was like looking for new logos, like that kind of stuff. Like if you know like what your company, like the results that your company is supposed to be able to provide, look for the kind of buzzwords and trigger words that are around that. And then if you're not finding anything there, then maybe it's time to start actually reading paragraph by paragraph.
I mean, some people might fall asleep from reading it, so they'll be like, oh my goodness, it's too much. But I mean, if there's knowledge and value in there, then that's what you for sure should do.
Yeah.
It works. It really, really works.
That's awesome. I've actually never even thought of that before. That's actually really good insight.
Also, just do a Command F search for your buzzwords in a 10K. Yeah, and
account based.
There's oftentimes your buzzwords are right in there, and sometimes it's like a company-wide initiative that you would have never learned about unless you read the 10K.
Wow, that's really useful information. If y'all better like take that and run with it. Whoever's watching this video right here, that's big. It's really big. That's really awesome. So, kind of closing down with the last couple questions. Would like to talk about what I guess have you seen? You guys have talked this, but what have you seen the difference in your overall, I guess, thought process and workflow by taking an account-based strategy instead of going through like the scorched the earth strategy?
You want to go ahead?
Yeah, I think, well, when we started, the way that our like quota structure was set up was SQLs, so a sales qualified lead, which means that an AE took a meeting, and then if it became an opportunity, which meant that there was going to be an active buying cycle. We transitioned into like SQL, FQA, which is a fit qualified account, and then opportunities. And so I think that pushed everyone to make sure that they were only going after like fit qualified accounts. So we use the own EverString scoring mechanism internally to make sure that we were going after companies that looked like our best fit customers already. And so that emphasis on making sure that all of our meetings were with fit qualified accounts rather than just like a VP of marketing at like whatever kind of company helped us like really fully transition into like being account based.
Yeah, and the fact that I would see people give up on accounts after one lead told them no. That is the worst excuse to not
that's the worst.
But that's a lead-based approach, right? Like, the VP or the director of whatever told me no. But if the account's a great fit, like why would you stop at just one person? You know,
Exactly.
just because one person says no does not mean that that account is not a fit for your product.
100%. Yeah, there have been multiple times where I called someone and they were like the director and they're like, this is not even a priority. And I was like, all right. Then I called the VP of marketing and they're like, this is what we've been looking for. And I was like, all right. So it's just like you got to keep going in the account. You have to take an account-based outlook because, you know, each person's kind of mentality and mindset is different. You know, 4 people tell you, no, that's different, but there always could be someone who's actually looking for that exact thing that you're providing.
Yeah, and especially in larger accounts, the titles are often, your decision maker often doesn't have like a VP title tied to their name. I remember, you know, this big healthcare account in Ohio. You know, I was just trying to figure out who I needed to talk to at the account, and it ended up being like a team lead of analytics was like the guy, and like I figured that out, and I was pretty surprised to like, all right, you're gonna make the decision on this. And he told me, yeah, I actually met him in a conference because I was like, hey, I'm going after your, you know, this lady, do you know her, and is this the right lady? And he told me no, and he's like, I'm the right guy. And I was like, oh, well, do you want to have a meeting?
Exactly. Like, well, let's meet. Yeah. Cool. Awesome.
Yeah, I mean, those are the things that kind of changed our mindset.
Yeah, I mean, that's pretty huge though, because I think the biggest thing in changing mindset is results. And I think that a lot of people are like, oh, one person, then I'm like, I'm done. But like, always think about kind of what you guys said earlier is persistence. Like if there is one person that says no, there always can be another person that says yes, especially if you know it's a grade A fit.
Yeah.
100%.
Like you said, someone might be having a bad day and just want to say no to someone, and other people just have different priorities. So got to get through them all.
You have to. So last question for you guys, Carolyn and Jack, what is the #1 piece of advice that you give to an SDR starting out their career?
You want to go first? You want me to?
I want you to go first.
The #1 piece of advice that I would give an SDR in their first day or if their first job is just be hungry, like outwork people. Like, you know, I am a big fan of hard work, and in my opinion, hard work beats out talent when talent fails to work hard. You know that old saying. So stick with it. Like if you get 3 hits out of 10 in baseball, you're going to the Hall of Fame, right? You're going to fail 7 out of 10 times. You might fail like 9 out of 10 times in sales. So it takes a lot of willpower, and it's just like, you know, keep pushing the rock. If you get some momentum, just don't stop. Don't stop. Don't ever take a break. Just keep rolling.
That was so similar to mine.
You want to add any context to that?
I'm not trying to steal your thunder.
No, it's all good. Mine is just someone said it on a SaaStr episode a really long time ago, and it just really hit me, which is the harder you work, the luckier you get, which I think, like, if you know everything about an account and someone just casually picks up the phone one day, you're prepared. So I think you can never be too prepared for any situation. I think it extends into life, but especially as an SDR, like, you are the front line, and like, if you make a bad impression, like,
you can throw off a whole sales cycle if you have a bad first you know, call. So
work hard.
And that's on the SDR. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, I appreciate you guys' insight. Thank you so much for coming on the SDR Chronicles today and bringing a lot of value to the audience. I know that they're going to really love what you guys have said today. And as I always say, guys, keep dialing, and I'll see you guys soon.
All right, Morgan. Thanks.
Bye, Morgan.